Welcome to Daily Plunge. We are in the book of Esther, chapter 5, verses 1 through 14. On the third day of prayer, after Esther and her attendants and Mordecai and many others are praying for her, she goes to ask to speak with her king. Now, I want you to think about, here she is, praying for 3 full days just for one question, and yet do we cover the ministry of sharing the gospel with as much prayer? Churches need to take seriously the call to prayer. Now, she goes to the king's hall, and we should understand this is a heavily guarded, high security area because the king is under threat, like the assassination attempt that Mordecai foiled, right? And so she appears at the entrance, and the king is pleased to see her. Oh, hey, my new girl's paying attention to me. And so he points the scepter to her, which is a sign to the guards who had been ready to cut her down that she can enter. And so she comes forward through this long hall, and she touches his scepter, which is a ceremony of obedience and submission to the king. And then he says, well, what's your request? I'll even give you half of my kingdom, which is such an empty, sentence of words. Because is he really going to give her half the kingdom? But she asks, I simply want to have you, my king, and Haman over for a feast. And the king is delighted. And so he says, go get Haman at once. We're going to go have a feast over at the queen's, residence. So they go, and they're having a great time. And he says, what is your request? What can I do for you, my wonderful queen? And she says, well, I want you to have you come back again, and then I'll tell you. And I want you to bring Haman with you again, and then I'll tell you. And so they said, okay, it's a date the next day. And Haman leaves there, and he is on cloud 9, right? He couldn't be happier. He's on top of the world because he's the third wheel to the king and the queen. Even the queen likes him, right? And he turns a corner, and there's Mordecai, and it just deflates him completely because this guy will not bow down and respect me, nor does he tremble in fear at the sight of me, and it just drives him mad. And he goes home, and he gets his wife, and he gets his friends, so they can all talk about him and his problems, right? Because he's such a narcissist. And he says, hey, the king honors me. Even the queen likes me and wants to have me over for a meal just with them. Sorry, wife, you didn't get invited. And my status is just going through the roof, right? And, I'm the ultimate insider. But I have no satisfaction because of Mordecai. And the reason why is he's not a man of God. And so he can find no contentment in what has been given to him. And as he is just so obsessed with himself, with his own ego, his wife, and this tells you what kind of family, they belong to. She doesn't say, hey, let's talk about your ego issues and your obsessions. Instead, she offers, why don't you put up a 75-foot pole, a 5-story pole, and impale him on top of it? So the whole royal city of Susa can see his rotting corpse. And for Haman, he loves it. He's delighted with this idea. And so you just think, when we are narcissistic and self-absorbed, wanting others to see wronged so that we can be promoted, man, if yet those thoughts are going through your heart, repent big time. We all have moments when we can be a little bit narcissistic because we're sinners, but God is a God of grace who gets us back oriented to the true center of the universe, the Lord. Hey, thanks, friends, for joining me. Hope that you'll share this with others. Have a blessed day.